Hello again, and welcome to today's Slow English. Today's story, read at a slower pace, is called The Two Brides. Now, the next part of the story. By and by, when he began to get a little better, he consulted with the old woman as to how he could see Wu Kor with his own eyes. And, after some little difficulty, it was arranged that Che Shang should hide himself in a room from which he would be able to see her as she crossed the yard, supported by a maid, which she did every day at a certain hour. This Che Shang proceeded to do, and in a little while out she came, accompanied by the old woman as well, who instantly drew her attention either to the clouds or the trees, in order that she should walk more leisurely. Thus, Che Shang had a good look at her and saw that she was truly the young lady of his dream. He could hardly contain himself for joy, and when the old woman arrived and asked if she would do instead of Kuei Su, he thanked her very warmly and returned to his own home. There he told his father and mother, who sent off a matchmaker to arrange the preliminaries. But the latter came back and told them that Wu Kor was already betrothed. This was a terrible blow for Che Shang, who was soon as ill as ever, and offered no reply to his father and mother when they charged him with having made a mistake. For several months he ate nothing but a bowl of rice gruel a day, and he became as emaciated as a fowl, when, all of a sudden, the old woman walked in and asked him what was the matter. "Foolish boy," said she, when he had told her all. "Before, you wouldn't have her, and do you imagine she is bound to have you now? But I'll see if I can't help you, for were she the Emperor's own daughter, I should still find some way of getting her." Che Shang asked what he should do, and she then told him to send a servant with a letter next day to Wu Kor's house, to which his father at first objected for fear of another repulse. But the old woman assured him that Wu Kor's parents had since repented, besides which no written contract had as yet been made. "And you know the proverb," added she, "that those who are first at the fire will get their dinner first." And you can hear the next part of today's story very soon. Now the next part. So Che Shang's father agreed, and 2 servants were accordingly sent, their mission proving a complete success. Che Shang now rapidly recovered his health, and thought no more of Kuei Su, who, when she heard of the intended match, became in her turn very seriously ill, to the great anger of her father, who said she might die for all he cared, but to the great sorrow of her mother, who was extremely fond of her daughter. The latter even went so far as to propose to Mr. Chung that Kuei Su should go as second wife, at which he was so enraged that he declared he would wash his hands of the girl altogether. The mother, then found out when Cheshang's wedding was to take place, and, borrowing a chair and attendants from her brother under pretense of going to visit him, put Kuei Su inside and sent her off to her uncle's house. As she arrived at the door, the servants spread a carpet for her to walk on, and the band struck up the wedding march. Cheshang went out to see what it was all about, and there met a young lady in a bridal veil, from whom he would have escaped had not her servants surrounded them. And before he knew what he was doing, he was making her the usual salutation of a bridegroom. Then they went in together, and, to his further astonishment, he found that the young lady was Kuei Su, and being now unable to go and meet Wu Kuo, a message was sent to her father, telling him what had happened. And you can hear the last part of the story in just a moment. Now, the last part of the story. He too got into a great rage and vowed he would break off the match. But Wu Kuo herself said she would go all the same, her rival having only got the start of her in point of time. And go she did, and the two wives, instead of quarrelling, as was expected, lived very happily together like sisters, and wore each other's clothes and shoes without distinction, Kuei Su taking the place of an elder sister, as being somewhat older than Wu Kuo. One day, after these events, Cheshang asked Wu Kuo why she had refused his offer, to which she replied that it was merely to pay him out for having previously refused her father's proposal. "Before you had seen me, your head was full of Kuei Su, but after you had seen me, your thoughts were somewhat divided, and I wanted to know how I compared with her, and whether you would fall ill on my account, as you had on hers, that we mightn't quarrel about our looks." "It was a cruel revenge," said Cheshang, "but how should I ever have got a sight of you if not been for the old woman?" "What had she to do with it?" replied Wu Kuo. "I knew you were behind the door all the time. When I was ill, I dreamt that I went to your house and saw you, but I looked upon it only as a dream, until I heard that you had dreamt that I had actually been there, and then I knew that my spirit must have been with you." Cheshang now related to her the particulars of his vision, which coincided exactly with her own, and thus, strangely enough, had the matrimonial alliances of both father and son been brought about by dreams.
Am I Radio.